I think that room needs another window to make two rooms work, but maybe I'm wrong.
We are live. The Senate will please come to order. Please join me in a moment of silence today in lieu of a devotional. Thank you. Are there any announcements this morning? Senator from Windham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to say, like so many Vermonters, I know that there are senators who are really struggling at this time. Just like we have a lot of work on our plates, we also have things to manage on the home front. And I just want everybody to be holding each other gently in our hearts. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. We have some appointments today. We have 3 appointments, which we've received from the governor and which are now being referred to the committees having jurisdiction. These appointments will appear in the journal, which you'll receive tomorrow. We have 1 referral, Senate Bill S-25 being on the calendar for notice and affecting the revenues of the state under Rule 31 is referred to the Committee on Finance. And we have a House resolution, JRH-5, relating to authorizing, subject to the determination of and limitations that the Sergeant at Arms may establish the Green Mountain Boys State Educational Program to use the State House. It was introduced on March 16th by Rep. Marcotte of Newport and others, and was read and adopted by the House on March 17th. Please listen to the reading of the resolution by title only.
JRH-5, joint resolution authorizing, subject to the determination of and limitation, so that the Sergeant at Arms may establish the Green Mountain Boys State Educational Program to use the State House.
Now you've heard the reading of the resolution. The chair, in her discretion, will place this resolution on the calendar for action. This brings us to our House bills. H10, an act relating to permitted candidate expenditures, which was introduced on the House on January 7th, 2021. Please listen to the first reading.
H10, an act relating to permitted candidate expenditures.
You've heard the first reading, and the bill is referred to the Committee on Government Operations. H46, an act relating to miscellaneous provisions of mental health law, introduced in the House on January 7th, 2021. Please listen to the first reading.
H46, an act relating to miscellaneous provisions of mental health law.
You've heard the first reading, and the bill is referred to the Committee on Health and Welfare. H104, an act relating to considerations in facilitating the interstate practice of healthcare professionals using telehealth, introduced in the House on January 21st, 2021. Please listen to the first reading.
H104, an act relating to considerations in facilitating the interstate practice of healthcare professionals using telehealth.
You've heard the first reading, and the bill is referred to the Committee on Health and Welfare. H149, an act relating to modernizing statutes related to the Vermont National Guard, introduced on January 20th, 2021. Please listen to the first reading.
H149, an act relating to modernizing statutes related to the Vermont National Guard.
You've heard the first reading, and the bill is referred to the Committee on Government Operations. H337, an act relating to the printing and distribution of state publications, introduced in the House on February 24th, 2021. Please listen to the first reading.
H337, an act relating to the printing and distribution of state publications.
You've heard the first reading, and the bill is referred to the Committee on Government Operations. And finally, H366, an act relating to 2021 technical corrections, which was introduced in the House on February 26, 2021. Please listen to the first reading.
H336, an act relating to 2021 technical corrections.
You've heard the first reading, and the bill is referred to the Committee on Government Operations. This brings us to the orders of the day. The senator from Windham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to pass over S10 to a date certain, Thursday, March 25th.
The senator from Windham has moved that action on S10 be postponed until a date certain, Thursday, March 25th. Are you ready for the question? And if so, please unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you will move over S10 until Thursday, March 25th. We have on the calendar for action S60, which was introduced on February 3rd, 2021. It was referred to the Committee on Finance, which reports it has considered the bill and recommends that the bill be amended as appears on pages 609 to 611 of today's calendar, and that when so amended, the bill ought to pass. Please listen to the second reading of S60.
S60, an act relating to allowing municipal and cooperative utilities to offer innovative rates and services.
The senator from Addison, Senator Bray, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Finance.
Thank you, Madam President. Again, I'm reporting on S60, an act relating to allowing municipal and cooperative utilities to offer innovative rates and services, which appears beginning on page 609 of today's calendar. For most often when we bring a bill forward, it's either that we're seeing a problem and we're trying to solve the problem, or maybe we see an opportunity and we're trying to grasp that opportunity. They are sometimes two sides of the same coin, and that's the case here, where we have an existing law regulatory structure for the development of electricity rates, and it's a formal and lengthy process because we have responsibility to deliver electrical service to all customers that is safe and reliable, that has the lowest environmental impact possible, and is delivered at the lowest possible cost. That review process is somewhat expensive and lengthy, and there are municipal electric companies as well as cooperative electric companies that are proposing a way to adjust rates by going through an alternative program that will be less costly, take less time, and allow them to make smaller rate adjustments without having a full case. So that is one piece of the bill. The other piece is that we are in a period of rapid transformation of how we deliver and use electricity, and cooperative and municipal electric companies would like to be able to deliver innovative programs in order to test out ideas that could be helpful to us achieving our climate goals, as well as saving people energy. So I would point, for instance, to a tariff that some utilities are offering that lets people charge electric vehicles at rates that are affordable enough that they are producing the equivalent of 62 cents a gallon gasoline. So those are the two goals: to have an ability to implement minor rate adjustments to absorb costs and do that in a less costly process, and to offer innovative rates. So who are we talking about? We're talking, just to remind people, in Vermont, we have 17 electric utilities The largest and only private one is Green Mountain Power, which delivers about 75% of our customers. Then there's about 16 other smaller companies. 14 of them are municipal electric companies operating from from Richford up on the northern border all the way down to Jacksonville on the south and in between. And then we have 2 electric cooperatives, Washington Electric Co-op and Vermont Electric Co-op. So the thing I also want to point about this pool of utilities that have come together to make this change proposed is that they all are in essence operating as nonprofits. So their goal is always to maintain the least cost service they can to their customers. When they're applying for a rate increase, there is no such thing as winning higher profits by doing so. If they have money, it's either rolled back in that they put off a future rate increase, or it's for an infrastructure investment. So to get into the bill, how do we afford them this greater ability to come forward with a proposal for a rate increase? So now I'll turn to the bill to walk through the mechanics of what we do. In Section 1, sub N, we go through a series of steps here on how a municipal company formed as a municipal electric or a cooperative can bring forward a proposed rate change. And then we get into some conditions about making such a rate change. So this is a general rate change. It's going to be applied to all customers. There's 4 tests here. I call it, so it's like we have belt and suspenders times 2. First, in sub A, the rate change must be applied to all customers equally. Secondly, it must not be more than 2% during any 12-month period. That figure, just for reference, I looked at food inflation data for the period 2010 through 2020. It's running at 1.98%. So this is, you might think of it as an inflation adjuster that's in keeping with other costs that Vermonters are accustomed to seeing. In sub C, the cumulative effect of any of these rate increases that must be less than 2% cannot be more than 10% in total since the last rate increase approved by the commission. So what that means, that last phrase, is they must come forward for a full formal rate hearing. And that's what the phrase approved by the commission means. So they are allowed over a period of time to accumulate up to 10% of these smaller incremental adjustments. But once they hit 10, they must then return to the department and the PUC for a full formal review. And in D, that it's not going to take effect more than 10 years from the last approval. So there's a limit on the amount of cumulative rate adjustments, and there's also a time limit. So those are the 4 conditions that any of these proposed rate increases must meet. In sub 2, we specify ways to ensure that if there's anything contentious, there are opportunities to ensure that it's addressed. And that takes in the form of notice that must be given to the Department of Public Service and the Commission at least 45 days prior to implementing the change. And unless there is an objection to the change, the change will go forward. However, the department can request an investigation, and the commission itself, the PUC itself, can request an investigation. And those are not the only sort of watchdogs on this process. If we go on to sub 3, you'll see that if the department does not object to the change within 30 days, 5 persons adversely affected by the change may apply at their own expense to the commission, petitioning for a review investigation. And fourth, we get into yet another piece of notification in order to make sure that there's full knowledge the potential for full knowledge on the part of all customers served, that there must be a public meeting at which approval is granted. So I'll go to sub 4 now. A municipal company or electric cooperative shall be eligible to change its rates pursuant to this subsection only if it's received approval for such a rate change from its governing body at a duly warned meeting held for such purpose prior to filing its written notice with the department and the commission. So even prior to the filing, there has to be the governing body at a public meeting has to spell out the proposal. And then, and 5 is an implementation feature. So in order to have this provision for rates move forward, we'll actually need rules or orders, standards, and procedures for the PUC and the department to work by. 5 puts into law the request for the development of those standards. So those are all for small rate increases, not totaling more than 10% over a period of not more than 10 years, and never more than 2% in any rate increase. That is really independent entirely from Section O, which is oriented to offering innovative rates or services to their customers as pilot programs. Again, without going through a formal rate process. So we put, again, belts and suspenders on this in terms of the guardrails are established. So now I'm in Section O on page 610. And we're saying what are the requirements in order to getting an innovative rate or service. In sub A, it has to be designed to satisfy the requirements of subdivision 8005A3. So that's tier 3 of our renewable energy standard. Or it has to be tied to the goals of the state comprehensive plan. So in essence, we've already identified areas of innovation. We're trying to make it easier for municipal electrics and cooperative electrics to deliver those kinds of innovative services, but we're tying it specifically back to the charge we made to them through sub A. B, that the pilot has a duration of 18 months or less, so it's again time limited. And then C, in terms of the scope of the impacts, the pilot shall not result in, and there are 2 conditions here, plant additions of more than 2% of the company's or electric cooperative's net plant capacity. So basically, it's a size of the investment. It can't be more than 2% of their current infrastructure value. And then secondly, the other qualification is the increase shall not be in the municipal electric or cooperative's overall cost of service have an impact of more than 2%. So again, a rate impact of not more than 2%, a value for the project of not more than 2% of its plant and infrastructure. In sub 2, we get into very similar provisions in the previous section. We want a written notice of delivered to the Department of Public Service and the Commission at least 45 days prior. Again, there's the possibility of the department or commission to be able to investigate if it believes that the proposal requires clarification or might have controversial elements in it. In sub 3, the written notice goes again. We specify that written notice to the Department of Public Service and Commission at least 45 days prior to the end of the innovator service is delivered. So in other words, we not only have notice for commencing the pilot, but also for terminating a pilot. And the notion there is that we want reliable sort of continuity of service that customers count on for their electric utilities. And then in sub 4, it's the implementation methods for allowing this change in rate making and approvals to go forward. Once again, we ask the Commission to establish by rule or order standards and procedures for implementing. The effective date for all this is July 1 of 21. The committee vote was 7-0-0, and we took extensive testimony with the following people. Riley Allen, Deputy Commissioner, Department of Public Service; Melissa Bailey, Manager of Government and Manager Relations for the Vermont Public Power Supply Authority; Andrea Cohen, Manager of Government Affairs and Member Relations, Vermont Electric Cooperative; Ellen Chakowski, Legislative Counsel, Office of Legislative Counsel; Thomas Nauer, Policy Director, Vermont Public Utility Commission; Luke Martland, Director and Chief Counsel, Office of Legislative Counsel; and Joan White, Utility Analyst, Public Utility Commission. That completes my report, and the committee would ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. And the question is, shall the Senate amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Finance? Are you ready for the question? The senator from Essex Orleans is recognized. Senator, kindly unmute.
Yes, thank you. May I inquire of the reporter of the bill, please?
You may.
Yes, thank you. Could the reporter say if there was any discussion? We've been talking a lot about broadband and getting internet service to the last mile. And one of the discussions I've been in had a lot of questions raised about being able to hook wires to the electric poles, which most all houses today have poles going to their property. And I was wondering, was there any discussion when you were, I assume from your report that utilities came in and supported this bill in line to get it done. I was wondering if there was any discussion with the utilities in allowing and agreeing to allow broadband cable to be hooked to their poles, getting to the last mile. Was there any of that discussion that took place?
We have had a lot of discussion in committee this session around broadband and utilities and the relationship between them for just the reasons you cited. They have poles, wires, they know how to string things and maintain them. But those are not part of this bill. There is a separate bill that is looking to take advantage of that expertise at the utility level and allow them to partner with communication union districts, for instance, and others to do just that kind of work. But it's not part of this bill, Mr. President.
Well, I thank the reporter, just that over my time in business and things, the best time to ask people to be cooperative on something is when they're asking you for something. And but hopefully that will happen in the future. And I fully support this bill and think it's a great idea to allow this to happen. But I think if I'd have been in on the discussion, I would have hit them up for agreeing to some deal on allowing a wire to be hooked to the poles when they were asking for something. But thank you very much.
The question is, shall the Senate amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Finance? Are you ready for the question? Please unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've amended the bill as recommended by the Committee on Finance. The question now is, shall the bill be read the third time? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please unmute and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've ordered third reading of S10. We have on the calendar for action S88, which was introduced on February 19th. It was referred to the Committee on Finance, which reports it's considered the bill and recommends that the bill be amended as appears on pages 611 to 633 of today's calendar, and that when so amended, the bill ought to pass. Please listen to the second reading of the bill.
S88, an act relating to insurance, banking, and securities.
The senator from Addison, Senator Hardy, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Finance.
Thank you, Madam President. Okay, everyone, hold on to your hats. This is our annual banking, insurance, and securities bill that is generally reflects the proposals offered by the Department of Financial Regulations in the areas of insurance, and this year, also captive insurance. So this is both regular insurance and captive insurance. And most of the proposals in this bill are technical and conforming in nature, but there are many sections of the bill. If you would like to follow along, you may start on page 612 of today's calendar. The Finance Committee, your Finance Committee proposed a strike all amendment to include specific captive insurance amendments and regular insurance amendments to this bill. The first part deals with quote unquote regular insurance. And I will just be reading from the summary and we'll be happy to answer your questions at the end. Section 1 pertains to the regulation of debt adjusters. The amendment clarifies the titles and terms that may not be used by unlicensed entities. Under current law, an unlicensed entity may not call itself a debt adjuster or budget planner. The amendment explains the prohibition to include words of similar import, and the goal is to prevent unlicensed entities from contravening the intent of the statute by using titles or terms with similar meaning, but with slightly different wording. Sections 2 and 3 pertain to the department's general licensing provisions. They eliminate a type of a license, specifically a combination license. In 2019, the General Assembly allowed companies to apply for and receive a combination of up to 4 license types: lender, mortgage broker, loan solicitation, or loan services at a discounted fee. However, the department has not been able to successfully implement this concept within the national multi-state licensing system, and it has caused problems with reporting and public record requests. So this proposal would eliminate the combination license and require companies to apply, as in prior years, for just individual licenses. Section 4 pertains to reporting requirements applicable to non-bank licenses. For example, licensed lenders, mortgage brokers, and loan servicers, et cetera, and it increases the penalty from $100 to $1,000 for each month the report is past due. There is a 5-day grace period before the fee applies. According to the department, it is important for regulators to receive annual reports in a timely fashion to understand the type and extent of business being conducted in Vermont by licensees and to conduct the appropriate examinations. 17% of licensees did not submit reports for 2019. It's not a good thing. And the department believes that a higher penalty will incentivize this timely filing. Section 5 eliminates mandatory annual reporting requirements for independent trust companies. Instead, such reports would be optional at the discretion of the commissioner. Currently, the department requests financial reports from independent trust companies on a more frequent basis and does not necessarily need the additional annual report from each company. Sections 6 through 8 pertain to mortgage loan originators and employees of other non-bank licensees. This would permit such workers to work from home without obtaining a branch license for this residence. This has obviously become more and more important over the past year, and it has worked well. So they're asking that this become a permanent ability. And as a result, they could continue to conduct operational and licensable activities remotely through a licensed business location without being physically present at that location. So they can telework from home. And this change would codify practices currently permitted during the state of emergency under the department's emergency rules. In connection with this change, the department intends to adopt rules requiring certain safeguards for the conduct of business from home, including cybersecurity protocols. Section 9 pertains to insurance licensing requirements. The amendment eliminates the requirement that licensees personally deliver or mail suspended, revoked, or terminated licenses to the commissioner. This is no longer necessary because the insurance division now maintains electronic licensing records and has not, for a number of years, required the return of these paper licenses. So it's just codifying what's already done. Section 10 pertains to confidentiality protections applicable to reports and records of investigations and examinations of insurance companies. And this would apply confidentiality protections to investigations and examinations submitted under all parts of Title VIII, which is the title of banking and insurance. Currently, the protections apply solely to materials submitted under Parts 2 and 4 of Title VIII, which apply to banks and security entities, but not insurance entities or credit unions. So this would make it apply to insurance entities and credit unions. With respect to insurance records and reports, there are submitted pursuant to investigations and examinations are confidential under other sections of Title VIII, but the logical place to put this language is in Section 23 of Title VIII. So it's just organizing the statute and confidentiality rules more appropriately. Sections 11 through 16 apply to risk-based capital standards for applicable health maintenance organizations, or HMOs. The amendments make Vermont statutes consistent with the National Association of Insurance Commissions risked bank capital for health maintenance organizations. These became effective in accreditation standards in 2015, so we're finally catching up. So this is important that we do this. Section 17 extends for 2 years the sunset applicable to the insurance regulatory sandbox. Senators may remember that 2 years ago, we had a bill that created a regulatory sandbox for insurance. Unfortunately, this sandbox has not yet been played in, and the department is asking that we extend the sunset for this provision that would reallocate resources for from innovation to damage control. DFR believes that the regulatory sandbox may become even more important in the next few years to help insurance carriers produce and test innovative products and respond to the impact of the pandemic. So the current statutory sunset is July 1st of 2023, and they are asking that the sandbox be allowed to be remained open until July 1st of 2025. So we can see if anybody wants to play in the sandbox. Section 18 clarifies that security filings and registration fees are non-refundable in all circumstances, rather than solely when filing results in a denial or withdrawal. The department's current practice is to reject refund requests for accidental filings, which require significant time and attention from staff. Thus, this statute would conform to current practice. Sections 19 and 20 revise and clarify the grace periods applicable to major medical health insurance policies. The proposal would establish a 30-day grace period for the payment and premium of unsubsidized major medical insurance policies as required under the ACA. Billing for such policies is shifting from the exchange to individual insurance carriers. For this reason, the the statute must be updated to reflect the ACA, or the Affordable Care Act requirement. And the department has engaged with insurers to ensure the language codifies current practices regarding billing and notices. Okay, so the next sections, we're moving into the captive insurance section. So pay attention. Sections 21 and 22 pertain to the formation and capitalization of captive insurance companies. Essentially, the amendments rearrange the order of required filings and procedures to license and capitalize a captive, and also appoints the Commissioner of Financial Regulation, rather than the Secretary of State, as the agent for service of process. If the amendments are adopted, formation procedures would realign, and they would be after receiving a license, the captive insurance would contribute the capital before conducting insurance business, and within 30 days of commencing business, provide a statement certifying under oath that the captive was capitalized prior to issuing policies. So they have to have the money before they issue the policies, and that's what the change would be. Section 23 pertains to annual reporting requirements and clarifies that these requirements apply to agency captive insurance requirements. Sections 24 and 25 pertain to protected cell conversions. And I know you're going to ask me what a protected cell is. It is a separate account by a captive insurance that insures a specific one or more specific participant. So it's like a biological cell. It's a very separate, small part of the whole captive insurance. And under existing law, there is both specific law and general law applicable to protected cell conversions. This proposal would repeal the specific law and further expand the general law to include all types of protected cell conversions. As a result, the proposal is really a consolidation of statutes into a more comprehensible statute. So they're just trying to clarify the process and make it easier for captive insurance agencies to follow. Sections 26 and 27 pertain to mergers and consolidations of captive insurance companies. According to DFR, mergers between captives are far more common than mergers of traditional insurers. In Vermont, there are several captive mergers every year. And the proposal here provides a specific law applicable only to captive mergers and consolidations. Section 26 applies to captive mergers upon the unanimous consent of stakeholders, members, or policymakers. And this is the case for nearly all captive mergers. Most of them work that way. But some of them work another way, and that captive merger provisions in Section 27 is modeled after traditional insurance law with slight modifications. The modifications eliminate the need for the commissioner to waive various parts of the merger rules that the traditional insurance law permits the commissioner to waive, and also deletes rules specifically exempted in statute. The intent is to streamline the process and minimize the filing of superfluous documents. It's always a good thing. Section 28 applies to the redomestication of a captive. It establishes a new redomestication statute applicable to the captives that is modeled after a similar statute applicable to traditional insurance companies. So it's just trying to make them have the same sort of process, the captives and the regular insurance companies. In addition, it specifies that the redomestication captive shall pay fees equivalent to a new captive. And the proposal also incorporates the current international practice of requiring proof of acceptance, usually in the form of a conditional license from the receiving domicile. So if a captive is redomesticating in Vermont, Vermont has to provide a conditional license to prove that the captive is establishing itself here. As explained by the Deputy Commissioner, Vermont often benefits from the redomestication of captives. Since inception of the captive statute, roughly 100 captives have moved to Vermont, compared to 60 moving out. This is such a good thing for Vermont. The intent of the new law is to specify very clear procedures for redomestication. Currently, the captive statute references the traditional insurance statutes when it comes to mergers and reinvestigations. The department is recommending a separate, more narrowly tailored statute with the captive insurance chapter of Vermont law. Sections 29 and 30, we're close to the end, folks, apply to risk retention groups. The amendments designate the Commissioner of Financial Regulation rather than the Secretary of State as the designated agent for service of process for foreign risk retention groups and purchasing groups doing business in Vermont in accordance with the Federal Liability Risk Retention Act. So this is conforming to federal law. And section 31, the very last one, is the effective date, which is effective on passage. The committee vote was 7-0-0. We heard from the Deputy Commissioner of the Captive Insurance Division of the Department of Financial Regulation, as well as the Director of Policy from the Department of Financial Regulation, and of course from our own Legislative Council. Again, the committee voted was unanimous, and we ask you to support your Finance Committee recommendation and approve this bill. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Finance? Are you ready for the question? The question is, shall the Senate amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Finance? If you're ready for the question, please unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've amended the bill as recommended by the Committee on Finance. The question now is, shall the bill be read the third time? Are you ready for the question? Please unmute. The senator from Windham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Just briefly, I am delighted, Madam President, to now be on the Committee of Appropriations, but my one sadness is that I'm no longer on Finance because this was a bill that I always really enjoyed reporting. The Vermont captives industry continues to be a bright star for Vermont. I just want to highlight a few of the awards. It was 2020's Domicile of the Year for domiciles having written over $5 billion in gross premiums for a U.S. captive review. That's the 7th time we've won that award. And we were the U.S. Domicile of the Year for 2020 and the 2020's International Domicile of the Year. This past year was full of terrible, heartbreaking news across the globe. It's wonderful to have a bit of good news here in Vermont. We need to take our bright spots wherever we can. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. Are there any, the senator from Windsor is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I would also like to thank Senate Finance for this bill because this is where Senate Economic Development plays in the sandbox. And we have been working on creating all sorts of innovative ways for our economy to play in that sandbox. And so I'm delighted that that sunset has been extended. Thank you very much.
The question is, shall the bill be read the third time? Are you ready for the question? So please unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've ordered third reading of S88. We have on the calendar for third reading S20. Third reading was ordered on March 17th. The chair recognizes the senator from Chittenden, Senator Lyons, for her amendment.
Thank you, Madam President. As you recall, excuse me, S20 regulates the use of PFAS in firefighting foam and other products. This is the same bill that we passed from the Senate to the other body last session, and then our committee took extensive testimony to bring the bill to you on Wednesday. This proposal of amendment strikes out a phrase in section 1773 to allow for the definition of PFAS to conform with the definition in section 1661, which is really at the beginning of this chapter relating to that includes PFAS. So that is the proposal of amendment. The committee brings it to you. The committee voted on this at 5-0-0 and would ask for your approval as well. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. The question is, shall the Senate amend the bill as recommended by the senator from Chittenden? Are you ready for the question? If so, please unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've amended the bill as recommended by the senator from Chittenden. Are there any further amendments before third reading? The question is, shall the bill... We will first have third reading of the bill.
Now do I hate these words? S20, an act relating to restrictions on perfluoroalkyl and polyfluoroalkyl substances and other chemicals of concern in consumer products.
The senator from Chittenden is recognized.
Madam President, I'd like to ask that the vote be by call of the roll. Thank you.
The senator from Chittenden has asked for a roll call vote. The question is, shall the bill pass as amended? Are you ready for the question? The secretary is kindly asked to call the roll.
Senator Ballant.
Yes.
Senator Baruth.
Yes.
Senator Benning.
Yes.
Senator Bray.
Yes.
Senator Brock.
Yes.
Senator Campion.
Yes.
Senator Chittenden.
Aye.
Senator Clarkson.
Yes.
Senator Collmore.
Yes.
Senator Cummings.
Yes.
Senator Hardy.
Yes.
Senator Hooker.
Yes.
Senator Ingalls.
Yes.
Senator Kitchell.
Yes.
Senator Lyons.
Yes.
Senator McDonald.
Yes.
Senator Mazza.
Yes.
Senator McCormack.
Yes.
Senator Nitka.
Yes.
Senator Parent.
Yes.
Senator Pearson.
Yes.
Senator Perschlick.
Yes.
Senator Polina.
Yes.
Senator Rahm.
Yes.
Senator Sears.
Yes.
Senator Sirotkin.
Yes.
Senator Starr.
Yes.
Senator Terenzini.
Yes.
Senator Westman.
Yes.
Senator White.
Yes.
Please listen to the results of your vote. The yeas 30, the nays 0, and you've passed S20. We have on the calendar for action H315. It was read for the first time on February 26, 2021. It was referred to the Committee on Appropriations, which reports it has considered the bill, recommends the bill be amended as set forth on pages 637 to 656 of today's calendar, and that when so amended, the bill ought to pass. The senator from Caledonia, Senator Kitchell, is recognized.
Second reading.
We will first do second reading.
H315.
The senator from Caledonia, Senator Kitchell, is recognized for an explanation of the bill on behalf of the Committee on Appropriations.
Thank you, Madam President. In advance, we did have circulated a summary of the funding that is associated with this bill. There are numerous funding streams involved in the appropriations here, and it's sometimes hard to track them all. I will say that from the committee's perspective, we worked hard and we prioritized or stacked what we call funding sources. So our first priority is if we could use the new passed ARPA, which is the American Relief Bill that was just passed, that is money providing funding to be a response to the negative impact of COVID, then we use that. That is new money, and I know that there is questions about how it was used, but our joint fiscal staff has been very diligent in getting information and looking at that legislation, and has advised us where we believe that the ability to use the ARPA money is a permissible use. We also have the CRF money. That's the $1.2 billion that we had come to the state last year, and there's still some of CRF money that is being dealt with in this bill. And then the last fund that we use is general fund. Our reason for that is general fund, state dollars give us the maximum flexibility to use and respond in the most strategic way we can. So our thinking around this is how we stack and the priority in which we're using those funding streams. We expect that there will be more guidance on the new ARPA money within a week. And so there is language here that the first section anticipates receipts. And like we have done in the past, we are expending money in anticipation of receipts as necessary. That really shouldn't, because of the timing, I don't think is really much of an issue, but it is putting in language to anticipate the use of those receipts. We are going to also have an amendment, but I'll cover that later. In Section 2, we are carrying forward and reverting existing Corona relief money. This section only deals with unobligated, I want to be very clear, unobligated CRF money, which we are able to use with the Department of Corrections very clearly as a permissible use, which then in turn frees up general fund that is available to use to address other budgetary needs within the state budget. So this is a way of dealing with the any remaining unobligated Corona Relief Fund from that original grant of $1.25 billion. Now, in the document that we sent out in advance, which is a list of the one-time initiatives, what this bill is doing is moving out much faster than we would do in our regular budget process to fund programs, services, and initiatives that actually can benefit from a faster implementation. Some of them, for example, like trails or maintenance could actually, because of the spring season, could begin much earlier than a July 1st. So what we've tried to do is move out areas of spending that the benefit of additional months or an early startup would allow the work to proceed much faster. So on Section 3, and you'll see on the sheet of the one-time initiatives, way to the left-hand column are numbers, and those are references to the sections of the bill. So, for example, we have here to the Department of Environmental Conservation, Section 22, brownfield remediation. So there is a little out of order here relative to the bill itself, but what is really important is to be able to track what change might have been made in the bill as it came to us from the other body, or how money was proposed to be spent by the administration. So the first, Section 3, is the much talked about $10 million in business grants. These are grants to assist businesses that they're called GAP grants, because these are businesses that did not get any assistance in the past bills. And many of them were new businesses that started up and did not have a prior year income comparison. So there's $10 million. We are at this point using the ARPA state relief funds. This was a section that we had the Economic Development Committee provide us with their recommendations, and that is what you see in this reflected in section 3. You'll note that out of that 10 million, there's $1 million specifically identified to be available to members of the underrepresented communities to provide targeted assistance to that population of Vermonters. The other part of this section sets forth a process for the future distributions of funds for businesses under the American Rescue Plan. And 3B is micro business. That is really a program that serves many very small businesses. Usually these are single entities and startup, and that is $500,000. Their money is totally depleted. So this allows that program to continue to assist Vermonters in their micro business development. The Section 4 you will see is housing and facilities. We did not change this. This is $10 million. It's general fund, and it allows us to move forward on the acquisition of projects that are ready. We have over 2,000 individuals that are in motels or hotels at this point, and there are some projects that could be moved forward immediately. One would be apartments. I think would be 74 apartments would be made available with the acquisition of that property. There are several emergency housing shelters that need improvements, and this $10 million would be available to assist with those projects. I want to make it clear that in the administration's proposal, there was a $20 million general fund proposal for VHCB. This does not influence or detract from that or subtract from that at all. That $20 million is designed to attract or qualify for tax incentives and be able to take the $20 million and convert it in the end with the additional ways that money can be leveraged to support $80 million of housing. So this 10 million is really on top of that, and it's to bring as much housing capacity online as we can. Section 5 is something that was requested and is here in the Senate version of this bill, and it provides homeowner assistance relief for mortgage assistance for foreclosure. And it's retroactive to January 1st, so it could pick up when that other funding ended so that homeowners can get assistance with a mortgage. And this is going to be the subject of an amendment. We're moving the funding source to the Corona Relief Fund grant. The Section 6 is really unchanged from what we received in the bill as it was passed by the other body. It's emergency grants to mental health for outreach services. This is using the ARPA funding, and it's to for a mental health peer support organization and to an organization supporting the needs of LGBTQ youth. The Section 7, and I want to thank our Health and Welfare Committee because their recommendations are reflected here, would be $4 million to make existing housing and community-based service facilities that are part of our mental health services to be more accessible, safe, and compliant. And there are many needs within our DAs and our designated agencies and our specialized service agencies where they could use money for addressing these needs. This is not an area where we have done very well in funding that system, and this does provide some relief so that they could make these improvements and investments in housing and their facilities. Section 8 is not changed except the funding source, and that is to provide an additional case manager in each of our designated mental health agencies. We know that this has been a stressful period of time in the lives of many Vermonters, and the need for mental health services and supports has increased, and this would allow the hiring of additional staff. Section 9 is also workforce training and wellness supports for frontline workers who are certainly have been in a very stressful work environment for a prolonged period of time. Section 10 is supports for new Americans and refugees and immigrants, and this would be split between two organizations to assist and provide supports to these Vermonters. Section 11, which would be grants to our Reach Up families. These are families that the grants are very low. For a family of 3, I believe it's like $740 a month. This was in the bill as it came over to the Senate, but we were able to move in light of the availability of the American Rescue Plan to use those funds to support this supplemental payment to these families. Section 12, no change, except we did move the food bank assistance they were providing food boxes to families, and this was because the USDA contract got really compromised and families were not being served. But we also, in an earlier CRF-related bill, had provided assistance to fund diapers, which are really expensive and an important need for families. And so we had a request that came in to continue funding to provide assistance for that. So that appropriation was increased by $82,000 to provide that form of assistance to families with young children, with infants. Section 13 is a grant to provide services to address the isolation for the blind and visually impaired. Section 14 is better data collection. We've all been very concerned about the healthcare disparities that have been laid bare by the pandemic, and that is where we would improve our data collection so that we can be more strategic and understand where the disparities exist and how we can best address them. Section 15 should be very familiar to people. It's something that we was an initiative of our Senate Education Committee, and that was to use funds to improve our air quality for our schools. And we originally had used CRF money, but with the ARPA money that's now available, we're simply moving that $15 million. This would allow more schools that are currently in queue to get the air quality improvements that they need. This would be through Efficiency Vermont. Our feedback on this is that the schools feel that they've been very well served by having this resource, and we want to be able to continue to assist more schools. Section 16, as you will know, on the financial list of spending, really reflects the recommendations from Senate Education. We're very troubled by the fact that I think it's about half of Vermont third graders are not testing at the reading level standards. This is to provide training to our teachers to equip them with better skills and techniques in the way in which our students are instructed in reading. And this is even more important because our students have been either out of school or remote learning, and it's been a very difficult past school year. In some ways, before we get done, some kids have probably lost almost between the pandemic approaching 2 years. And then the student mental health, and then the truancy. And this is something that I think has been talked about, and that is we have, whether we call them ghost students, students that have sort of disappeared, but we're really going to have to make some concerted effort to reconnect students with schools, and it's going to require a team approach. And this is the recommendation that was advanced by your Senate Education Committee. And then after school and summer programs, once again, we're really trying to do what we can to support our Vermont youth, and certainly after school and summer programs are a key part of that. And then summer meals. And this is a change the Appropriations Committee made to the recommendation. We increased the amount for summer meals because we based it on the actual experience and expenditure of what it costs to provide summer meals to our Vermont kids. Section 17 is something really I think we should all be proud of. It's something that we worked on in the Senate, and it's a workforce training initiative. Now, the shortage of nurses in Vermont is well known. There's been a study that shows that I don't know, maybe several thousand nurses are going to be needed over the next decade. And we're all competing and thinking of different ways, but we actually competing with an inadequate supply. And this is really an effort to increase the supply. And it is really along a grow your own approach. And it's in partnership with our nursing homes. And it is also in partnership with the Vermont, with VTC. And it will generate or will produce or serve 40 to 45 individuals to provide the training and education needed for their certification as an LPN. And the partnership here is the skilled facilities will provide an incentive match of $4,000 per student. So it's a wonderful partnership between our higher education, between our nursing homes that are suffering from an acute shortage of geriatric nurses. And it is also an example of how we can use this money to increase the skills and professional opportunities for Vermonters who are providing essential care. In Section 18, we wanted to continue something that was done last spring, and that was to upskill the Vermont workers and using both Vermont State College System and UVM to provide classes so that our workforce can take advantage if they're out of work, to get courses or certifications so that they are better prepared and actually equipped to meet workplace needs. 19 is something that is built on what was the McClure Foundation initiative, and that was to connect high school seniors with a CCV course. What this does is say both students graduating in this spring or those that graduated last spring when we were in the midst of COVID is to connect them with its college advancement opportunity and to fund 2 free classes. And they would get, for many kids, the cost of going to college is really a challenge for books or transportation. And so like we do with dual enrollment, we're providing a stipend to assist students so that children, regardless of their family's income, would be able to have the benefit of these courses. Section 20 is just setting aside, and this has been a topic of the letters, if you're reading the correspondence between the administration and the committee. We are not changing this. This is reserving $20 million of general fund to make a statement that we are serious about addressing our pension and our OPEB obligations. Your Appropriations Committee was not in a position to get into, in a fast-track bill, the complexities of the pension and OPEB discussion. It's one that we absolutely have to have. This is simply leaving it the way it came over in the bill, but it provides a statement that money is being reserved and we intend to address this problem before we leave this year. Section 21, once again, this was changed as a result of feedback from our Finance Committee. And we had 3.2 million of CRF money that had been allocated that had not been used by the Public Service Department. This is appropriating the remaining 3.2, and you can see it's for COVID response extension line, customer assistance program, and 1.6 million for the temporary broadband lifeline. That is how the 3.2 million is being appropriated here. And then there's an additional 1.8 million of the ARPA relief funds. At 1.6 million would go to the CUDs and with pre-construction costs and support services, as well as 200,000 for a position, knowing that we need to provide support to our CUDs that have been created for the purpose of increasing access to broadband. Many of these districts are really in their infancy. They're staffed by volunteers, and they really need some additional expertise to help them with a very important work ahead. And there's also, out of that 200,000, a small amount, 50,000 for the relay conference or capturing for the deaf of hard of hearing. In natural resources, the bill, as we're voted it out, includes the 3 million for working lands, as came over from the other body. But we are allocating out of that 3,500,000 for grants related to slaughter, meat processing, and training. This has been identified as an important area where we need to build capacity out into the future and to support the diversification of our agricultural economy. The 5 million for VORAC recreation, you can see that is where we can move forward on spring work as soon as this money is available. And the same is true with the 5 million in the ANR for the recreational infrastructure on state lands and trails and so forth. Then also we have 14 million. There are many brownfields around the state. Some of them are in Springfield. I know that there's one in St. Johnsbury, center of town, a business complex, but they're all around the state. And this would move forward the work that DEC would be doing to support the remediation of brownfield and the cleanup. And then there is a plan in the second year that money would go to the Agency of Commerce and Community Development that would help with the actual financing and the use of these sites. And then there's a 250,000 to the Agency of Ag, and this is to continue the work on their ecosystem services, which is soil improvement and working with farmers to engage in these practices. And this is a priority that for our Senate Ag Committee. Section 23 and 24, we had to deal with the link up of the federal changes in tax laws. And this is to recognize we have no choice because of timing, and we are not about to ask people to go and file make changes retroactively, and this is adopting the federal income tax laws. Section 25 is something that is coming in from your Senate Appropriations Committee. We know that our schools are getting money under the federal ARPA bill. In total, I think it's about $380 million that is flowing directly to our schools. And just like we did with air quality assistance, this is to give appropriate money, $2.8 million, to help schools as they administer the funds of about almost $400 million. And this is to make sure that we're thinking about how funds can be used in the most strategic way, the most long-term investments in the most permissible way. And so this is to help our schools to make sure that we are getting the best and highest use of those federal dollars. And we're doing the same with our local government. A great deal of money, several hundred million, are flowing directly to our towns. And with any federal money, there are rules around how it can be used, reporting requirements, fiscal requirements, and this is to provide the technical assistance to our towns through the League of Cities and Towns and to our regional planning commissions. Section 27 is a small but really important appropriation, and this allows the Center for Crime Victims to finish the work that they have with the Community Justice Center, and it's regarding the St. Joseph's Orphanage restorative inquiry that has been underway. Section 28 is to fund an audit, and the auditor's office does not have the capacity to do this, but we've had complaints about how the state paid deputies have been used during this period of time, whether they've been they're being paid by the state for certain functions, but perhaps are being used in generating revenues in other ways. So this is a way of auditing exactly what has happened in response to those complaints. And then Section 29 is simply giving legislative giving authority for joint fiscal. No new money, but we have renewal of our Medicaid waiver, an 1115 waiver, and we don't, as a legislature, we have one person really assigned to healthcare, but the renewal of the waiver involves millions of dollars. The implications are enormous, and our joint fiscal office simply does not have the staff and capability to keep the legislature informed and to assist us as we're going to have to be deliberating that work that is coming up in the future. So this is really a reflection of work that's ahead. The waiver provides millions, and in the course of the period of the waiver, it's billions of dollars involved here. And for us to do our due diligence and really understand the policy and the service implications, we need to have some additional help and some additional expertise. So Section 30 is just a technical correction, and then the effective dates. The committee vote was 7-0-0. We do want to thank it seems like this bill has touched just about every committee in the Senate. And I hope it reflects their thinking and input. We think it will move us forward to help Vermont build back better. It involves investment in our human capital, investment in our infrastructure, and it allows these benefits to get set up and move out as quickly as possible, so that we can take full advantage of the funding. So the committee vote, as I said, was 7-0-0, and we hope this body will concur.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Bennington is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to thank the Chair of Appropriations and the Appropriations Committee. Senate Education worked hard on and continues to work hard on the issue of literacy, improving literacy in the state. We have a literacy bill that is on the calendar for today that I don't suspect we'll get to, but we'll be talking about it next week. And I'm immensely grateful for the chair and her committee for fast tracking making this a priority. Additionally, preparing for summer programs so that young people can have a really restorative summer as much as possible was another priority that we heard a lot from members of the education community on. And then finally, access to higher ed. I'm deeply grateful for the committee's shared commitment on getting more students access to higher education, good quality experiences. And I really believe that what the Appropriations Committee has decided to do will allow students to continue to try higher ed, particularly those students that for whom higher ed really wasn't on their radar, really might be a challenge accessing it financially. So I just want to extend my support on behalf of the Committee on Education, and again, thank the Committee on Appropriations.
The senator from Franklin is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. And I, too, congratulate the Appropriations Committee on a monumental job, as always, given the size of the task and the limited time available. I do have one question, though, and that relates to new programs that may represent ongoing expenses after the COVID crisis is over. Of the various items of spending that are included in this bill, are there any that represent effectively new initiatives or initiatives that will, in fact, require additional funding from general fund revenues that are contained in this bill?
Senator, just to confirm, are you asking to inquire of the reporter?
I am.
Thank you, Madam President. That is an area that we were absolutely vigilant about, and you will see some very specific language as it relates to the positions that were put into mental health. We made it clear these are time limited, and there is no intent to continue beyond the funding that is here. And so our goal for any of this, and if anyone thinks that getting on this list somehow is an assurance of ongoing funding, that would be absolutely incorrect. This is not to build the base. And anything that would build the base, we have pulled out in bills that we've had to consider as part of the large, big bill for 2022, as you well know. And so I think it's very important, because I think there's such a miss with so much federal money coming in. And then, of course, we had the upgrade for this fiscal year's revenue, which added some one-time general fund. It's easy to think about, we have a lot of money, but that should not mask the reality that underneath that, what would be our normal expected state revenues are still going to be very constrained and a challenge as we move forward and out of this. So this gave us an opportunity to do some things that are self-contained, that would have long-term benefit, we hope. Some obviously are more immediate relief, but there is no intent that any of these would carry over into a base obligation.
Great. Thank you, Madam President.
The senator from Chittenden is recognized. Senator Sirotkin. Senator, kindly unmute.
Thank you, Madam President. I too want to thank the Appropriations Committee for taking to heart some of our suggestions on economic recovery grants, on brownfields and homelessness. And I just wanted to mention that I just received an email citing a new study that has just come out that's titled The State with the Highest Problem with Affordability Housing is This State, and it's not California. And the state they highlight is the state of Vermont. Thank you.
Madam President?
The senator from Caledonia is recognized.
I would just like to respond, and that is getting back to the committee deliberation. The $10 million that is included in this bill that will allow the acquisition of property immediately, unfortunately they don't bring or leverage additional funds, is so important. But the 20 million that will leverage more to support 80 million is I'm hoping it's on our list as a top priority. So housing is a tremendous need. We know that we have so many households that are spending huge percentages of their income, 60, 70% toward housing. And so we're trying to use this as an opportunity for housing to the greatest extent we can, because that is just like human capital. This is a different form of capital that we're trying to invest in.
The question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Appropriations? Senator from Windham is recognized.
I yield to the senator from Caledonia.
The senator from Caledonia is recognized.
Madam President, I have an amendment that was, and I'm not clear. Do you want me to speak to the amendment now, or?
You may. We worded it that way.
Okay.
Thank you.
As any bill of this size, there is a need to do some corrections. So in the first instance of amendment, we're making it clear that we're accepting the federal grants under the American Rescue Plan. This gets a little confusing because there are different sections within the Act, including the Corona state fiscal recovery, to the capital projects, to homeowner assistance, or even the ESSER, which is what we're doing some of the appropriations from. That's the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund. So what we're doing is accepting the grants and just simply saying that the money from these grants will be spent subject to appropriations. In the second instance of amendment, we realize in our Corona relief, as we're trying to get that unobligated money cleaned up, we might have to do the swapping of CRF and general fund over 2 fiscal years, 21 and 22. So this just builds the capacity to make sure that we're able to do that reversion from CRF, to the general fund conversion. The third instance of amendment is what I had mentioned earlier, and that is funding the mortgage assistance foreclosure prevention to keep it consistent with the past, and we're using Corona relief funds. That's part of that original $1.25 billion. In the fourth instance of amendment, in juggling so many requests from the committees, this was simply left out by mistake, and that is grants to our recovery centers, and that's $240,000 to provide grants of $20,000 each. There is a time, this is certainly in this environment where people suffering from addictions are really in need of even greater support and services. In the fifth instance of amendment, we left out the word fees, and also when we were doing the budget calculations, we wanted to make sure that what we're paying for is after other federal and state financial assistance is applied. And then the sixth instance of amendment is simply, we're just restriking it, but really we're trying to make it clear which ESSER fund is being referenced here. And then the seventh instance of amendment, we forgot to have the words effect on, that shall take effect on. So we are asking to have those 2 words inserted. And I am offering this amendment individually, but it is with the review and support of the Appropriations Committee.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Windham is recognized? No. The question is, shall the proposal of amendment of the Committee on Appropriations be amended as moved by the senator from Caledonia? The senator from Addison is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. May I inquire of the presenter of the amendment, please?
You may.
Thank you. Madam President, in the first instance of amendment, in paragraph A and paragraph B, one of them, for the American Rescue Funding, it says may be subject to appropriation, and the ESSER funds is shall be subject to appropriations. And I'm wondering if why there's a distinction of may versus shall.
That's a very good question.
I don't know where
You want to state it? I may have to, if it has to be corrected, or if there's a reason, I'm going to have to ask that we take a brief recess for me to consult.
Keep looking at
The clarification, there's two amendments that were circulated. There was one that was circulated this morning, and in the one that was circulated this morning, the shalls are, the shall in section A and the shall in section B have been corrected, it looks like.
The one on the calendar has a May.
But the one on the calendar has a May.
Okay.
So it looks like that has been corrected.
I'm looking at the one that the secretary emailed to us. And there's one of them, the first is a may and the second is a shall. And it may not be a problem. I was just curious as to why there's a difference and if it was supposed to be a difference.
There was
It is my understanding from the secretary that the one that was sent this morning should have the shalls. If you want to check that.
If they both would be shall, Madam President?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, if that's the case, then I think that should, in my opinion, that's correct, but I would defer to the chair of appropriations.
Madam President, I may request a brief recess because the document I have here in A says may be spent, and then and B is shall be spent. So I need to I need to get clarification if there is a distinction or if it's simply an error.
The secretary is confirming that on line 4 of section A, there is a may be spent, and then in section B on line 4, there is a shall be spent. So there actually, in fact, is a discrepancy.
Okay.
Madam President, why don't we go to recess for a few minutes?
The Senate will stand in recess.